Hi crafters, today we're creating an explosion card that we think you're gonna love. Are you ready? Let's get busy. Hi, I'm G and so happy that you're with us today. Let's talk about the supplies you're going to need. You're gonna need some cardstock, some patterned paper. If you have some glitter paper to create this Harry Potter inspired card, you need to get that. We have a couple dies here that we'll be using. And then our stamp sets we're going to use potions and spells for these beautiful images. We're also going to use Under the Moon to create a spooky magical night. And then for our bats, we're going to use the Scenic Pumpkin Patch. So let's start creating this explosion card. The first thing you need to do is grab your cardstock and we're going to make a card base. Now this card base is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 2 1/8 on each side. So it's a little bit different than your normal base card. So let's go ahead and get that made. So we're just going to cut this at 5.5. And I want to remind you that all our measurements and supplies are listed over on creativemomentsbyg.com. So let's take this card and now let's give it some score lines. So we're going to turn it long ways and we're going to score at 2 1/8. Now go ahead and just twist and turn it. And the reason we're doing that is so that our score lines are cutting into the cardstock and not different ways. Because when we fold it, we want a nice, crisp fold. So let's just go ahead and do that. Let's just bring this in, fold this over, and now grab your bone folder so that we can have a nice crease. And this is just a gatefold. Look at this. It folds just like this. Now, if for some reason this did not open and close very easily, you could put this in your trimmer. This is a great tip. You could put it in your trimmer and just take off a little sliver right there. But ours is working perfectly. And now when you think about a magical Harry Potter night, you want to pick those colors that really pop. So we decided to bring in this beautiful paper. Look at those bubbles. We're going to call them bubbles. And we are going to cut some strips of paper that will fit right on the outside of this card. And these strips of paper are going to be 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. So let's just get that. Now remember, 1 7/8 is just an 1/8 before 2. That's the way I like to always remember it. We're going to turn it long ways and we're just going to cut at 5 1/4. Just creating those panels that are going to go on the front of your card. Once again, we're going to cut 1 7/8 and 5 1/4. Move that. And now we can go ahead and just adhere these to the front of our card. So I'm going to bring in Kalel. We like to use Kalel. So let's just go ahead and lay this down. And look at that color coordination. That orange and purple just pop. Get a little bit of adhesive on this and get this laid down. Okay. Now let's go ahead and create our explosion part of the card. Now for this, we're just taking a large 12 by 12 piece of patterned paper, and you can take whatever you want, but I wanted this purple on the inside. So let's go ahead and cut this. Now the inside mechanism is 4 by 8. So I'm going to cut a 4-inch strip. And then I'm going to cut it at 8. So I'm going to extend my arm on my trimmer and I'm just going to cut it. Now we need to make some score lines. So go ahead and turn your paper long ways, and we're going to score at 2, 4, and 6. Now, because this is patterned paper, you want to make sure that you score it very lightly, but enough so that you can see it. But patterned paper is not as strong as cardstock. So I'm very mindful of that as I score. My pressure is not as heavy. So now find those score lines, and we're just going to give it a crease. Just like this, so that we know where they are. And here are our score lines. Now what you need to do is we are going to take this and we're going to score diagonally from the top left to this second bottom line. From the top right here, and create an X and go to the left corner. So it's very easy. We're creating X's within these boxes or these squares. So go ahead and just line up your paper on your trimmer, put it in the canal, that point, and we are just creating an X. Once again, the corner, and you need to find this right here. Put that in the canal and just score. So now we have our score lines. Look at that. We have created our X right here in this area. Now we're going to move over to this side and we're going to create an X as well. So go ahead and just put your corner in the area, and now we're going to bring it down to this corner, get both corners in there, and just score. Now turn it the other way, get this corner in your canal and this corner to create that X. This is such an easy card to make, but so magical. It is going to pop. We're going to put that up, and now we're just going to crease this side, and you can tell that we now have our creases, and it just creates like a little triangle. Now this next part is so easy. You just bring in the top and the bottom and it folds right over. You see how we did that? Let's do it again. I'm just going to give this a good crease. You bring in the top and the bottom right here, and it very naturally wants to fold the right way. And we just fold it. Go ahead and give it a good crease. Now, you have to be mindful of how you want your mechanism to open. We do not want it to open this way, so we're just going to flip this over, give our paper a good crease, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to bring in this top and this bottom, and it very naturally wants to fold. This is going to be glued down to the inside of our card, so you won't see all those flowers. Once again, bring in the top and the bottom and let it just naturally fold. And there we have it. Now let's bring in our card. Let me show you how you add this to the card. You see how we have our square. It opens up like this. So make sure that your points are at the top and the bottom and that it opens up to the side. And we are going to use our tape runner to add tape to the back. And I like to go ahead and get the mechanism laid down on the inside because it's fun to play with. Now on this, because we used a tape runner, you want to make sure, don't stick it down until you can see that you have the same margin top to bottom, side to side, just like this. Okay. And you are lining up this right here with the opening, and you can see that we've done that. So the next thing you want to do is put tape right here on this little triangle area. And we're going to close that door. and open it up. You see how it opens it up? Now do the same thing to this side. Put your tape right here on this little triangle, and we're going to close the door and hold it for just a second. And now look how our card, when you open it up, there's an explosion. It's magical. So let's go ahead and think about the inside of our card. You will need a square, and whatever color square you want, but I want a border and I want it to be black. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this down. Just a little bit of glue. And remember, this is not a square. It comes out to be a diamond. And that's important because when you add this next piece, you're going to have an image on it, or maybe you're going to have some words. And you want to make sure and do it right. Now, we have decided to use Highland Heather instead of white. It's just a little bit darker than white, but we think it makes it even more magical. Now, on the inside of this card, we're going to stamp a cute saying. And our saying is, double, double, toil and trouble. So let's bring in our Knight of Navy. And let's turn this diagonally. You want to make sure it's diagonally placed on your grid. And we're just going to put it just like this. We're also going to bring in some bubbles, and we're going to put some bubbles around here. Now, to make sure that I don't get it on my workspace, I'm going to go ahead and bring in a piece of paper. And now let's just stamp some of these bubbles. Look at that. So cute. Okay. Now the next thing we want to do is we're going to bring in some of the cutest little images that you get with this stamp set. You get some dies that cut out these potions that you can add to your card. And I want to show you what we've done. We cut out those potion bottles, and then we added our glitter for the liquid, the magical liquid. So we are just going to add this right here to the inside, and I'm just going to add a little bit of glue. Just going to leave a border all the way around. And look at this. How pretty is that? Now, make sure that you stay with us because we have another card to show you that we think you are going to love. So let's just put this to the side because the next thing, and really the second most important part of this card, is the outside and the belly band and the beautiful magical scene that is inspired by Harry Potter on the front of our card. So let's create our belly band. Now to do that, you need some cardstock that is 1 1/4 by 9 1/2. So we are going to extend the arm. We're going to cut a 1 1/4 inch strip off our cardstock. And then we're going to cut that at 9 1/2. Now, I already measured how this should go around our card. So let's go ahead and just put a couple score lines at 2 3/4 and then 7 1/4. And that should fit perfectly around our card. And let's see if it does. So we bring in our card, go ahead and fold on those score lines. Add our card and add our belly band, and it fits perfectly. So let's go ahead and just get that adhered together. This time I'm going to use some tape from the tape runner because I don't want it to wiggle at all. So we're just going to do that. Now on the front for this magical scene, what we're doing is we're bringing in this beautiful circle. Now look at that, so pretty. And we're going to do some blending on this. So let's grab that paper again so we don't get our workspace dirty. We're gonna lay this down. Now I have cut in here a mat that I can use because I'm going to stamp that spooky, scary moon, and then I'm going to place that over it so I can do some blending. But let's go ahead and stamp our moon first. So here is this. I am going to use orange and yellow, and I'm just going to add it with our blending brushes to this right here, just to make it spooky looking. Bring in some yellow or some Daffodil Delight. I'm holding it and letting it transfer. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a little bit of this pumpkin pie, and I'm just going over those areas, just a little bit. Oh, now look at that. Look at how pretty that is. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to create that spooky sky. So what I'm going to do is bring in some black and some Night of Navy. I'm going to use the Memento, and I'm going to open up my Night of Navy. And we're going to do the Night of Navy first. So I'm going to take my blending brush. I'm going to take this right here. Let's add just a little bit of removable tape so that we can hold it in place. And I'm going to put it right up to the edge. And now I'm just going to blend in some dark skies. Here's another tip so that you don't get your fingers dirty. Go ahead and bring in a Post-it note so that you can hold it and not get your fingers inky. Okay, we're going to put our blue over to the side, and I'm going to bring in my black. We're going to turn it just a little bit. And let's look at the big reveal. Look at that spooky sky. Now you can always add a little more black if you want. Now we want to go ahead, it's going to look like this on our card. So we want to go ahead and stamp Hocus Pocus right there on the inside of our moon. And let's do that with some Night of Navy. We're going to bring in a few crows to make it spooky. And I have a line of birds right here. These are crows, spooky crows. So we're just going to ink up that one area and bring them right here. Look at that. Okay, so we have our belly band. We have this. We are going to just add this right to our black circle, and you can go ahead and you can add it on dimensionals, or you can add it with some glue. I'm going to go ahead and add it on some dimensionals just to give it some more interest. So I'm going to use my leftover dimensionals. I'm going to take the backing off and just add it to this circle. Look at that. Look at how pretty that looks. Now the next thing we want to do is we're going to add a cauldron, but we want to use our blends to color this. And so we are using different shades of gray, and then we're also going to use our purples or our Highland Heather for our bubbles that we're going to use. So let's go ahead and get this colored. Now first I'm going to use the Daffodil Delight, and I'm just going to color this beautiful little clasp right here. There we have it. Now we're going to just bring in, and we're going to flood this entire cauldron with this light smoky slate. So I'm going to use the large nib. I'm just going over this area, over the entire cauldron. And now we're going to bring in the darker smoky slate so that we can do some shading. So I'm just going to shade on these areas right here that they show us need to be shaded with these lines. And look at that. Now, if these lines aren't blending enough for you, you can bring in the lighter one because this is an alcohol-based marker, and you can go over where the two meet and it will lighten that for you. You just have to wait for that to evaporate to see how beautiful it's going to be. So now we have this done, and what we used was a die from that stamp set to cut out that glitter that's boiling over the cauldron, right? And then we also used their stamp and used the bubbles that are going to come out of our cauldron. So let's go ahead and just put a little bit of tape right here so that we can add our bubbles. Just going to do just like this. And then we want to add this right to the top. Look at that. Oh, so cute. Now on this one, we're going to go ahead and put it on some little mini dimensionals. Okay, let's take the backing off and we'll add it to our cauldron. Okay, so now let's go ahead and put our belly band on our card, and we're putting the seam to the front because it's going to be covered up. Let's do it just like this. We're going to add this. Oh, look at that. So let's just put some glue right here, and we're going to use our tape runner so that it doesn't move. We're just going to center it just like this. And then we are going to add our cauldron. Now you want to make sure that you don't cover up your words, and so we can see that we need it just right here. So let's add some dimensionals to the back. Okay, and look at this magical card. You take off the belly band. You open it up for that magical explosion. Love how easy this card was to create. Look at that. Now let me show you the other cards. Look at this Harry Potter magical scene going on. We have the broom, we have the books, we have our cauldron. You take it off and open up for the magical explosion. Happy Halloween. How cute is that? And finally, we have this one that has our potions on the front, has our broom. We did our blending. You take it off, and are you ready for the explosion? Look at that. We have a little black cat with some sparkles. We used our stickles. So take a moment and let us know, what are your thoughts about these magical cards? Well, thank you so much for spending your time with us. We hope that you were inspired by our inspiration from Harry Potter to create these magical cards. Maudie and I want you to go out and have a fantastic day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.